Hello, this is Malorian, or Tactical Team. We're talking about the new book, and now I'm going to be talking more about magic. So I talked a little bit magic way in the past where I was talking about rumors, but I'm going to really get more into some of the tactics involved with these actual spells here. So if we start off with the big Wa, the first big thing that we have to look at is its best spell. It has this Foot of Gork, which is amazing. Foot of Gork in the last one, pick any unit, it takes D6 strength 6 hits. Pretty decent. Now, you have this foot template that comes from this book. You're probably going to be covering a little bit more models than the small blast template. And all those ones take a, it does D3 wounds and a strength 6. So it's going to be hitting way more than the old average of 3.5. And the big thing here is that it can keep on going. So it's kind of like the Rampage one from before, but you can also hit the same unit over and over again. So if you're ever against a big, huge block, let's say you're up against a big unit of Khorne Marauders with great weapons and you just really need to bring them down, this spell can waste them really quick. You know, bam, you're probably going to easily hit 15 guys with the first one. You know, on a 4+, you get to do it again, and this thing's just going to be devastating against them. Now, one of the things that it does scatter, but it only scatters D6. So, for the most part, with the way that we're going to be targeting large blocks, even if this thing moves, it's still going to be hitting the block, unless it goes the full 6, up or down. So, wow, amazingly devastating spell. Make sure you're targeting the most elite units of the other person, of your opponent. And the big thing here too is that this happens automatically the first time, but if you roll a 1, they get to stomp one of your own units. Well, the thing here is that usually with Orc and Goblins, I was saying before where you're going to have to decide to go either elite or with the Horde. Well, if you're really maximizing this spell and really targeting it when you're going with the Horde type, who cares, right? They get to do it against you, they kill a whole bunch of 0.3 goblins, but when you do it against them, you're killing a bunch of, let's say, you know, they're a bunch of the swordsmen or something. It's just amazing, amazing, amazing. And the best thing here is that it has a long range. You can go up to the 3 feet with this. You can be casting this across the board. It is a little bit hard to cast. It's a 15, but for what you're getting at it, I mean, why not throw 4 or 5 dice at it when it's going to be going so much? Some of the other things, we have 2 different sniper spells in this one here. We have the Ed Butt, which has the average distance normally of 4d6, but can go up to 8d6. So that's either 14 inches or 28 inches. And the big thing here is it's going to do a strength 4 hit that does D3 wounds, no armor saves. Just pick somebody. And of course, if you have orcs in combat, then this goes up a strength as well. So would that last one too, but at strength 6, you're usually doing everything on a 2+ anyway. With this, you know, the regular one was on a 9+. It only goes up to be a 12+ to get that extra range. So I think for the most part, unless you're really close, you're probably going to be bumping up to that 12+ extended range one. And really, with this, you're going to be using this to target heroes. Lords will be great to kill if you could, but you're really hoping for that full D3, the 3 wounds, whereas 2 wounds is more the average. You know, that's happening 2/3 of the time. So the key characters you're looking for here first is going to be a BSB. Bam, kill this guy, get him out of the way. If he has a support mage, bam, get this guy out of the way. And then if this ever fails, then you go back and you do the Brain Buster, and for this one again you just pick a single model and he just takes a strength 5 hit. So if you got really unlucky and it's just a 6th cast, a 9+ the cast if you do the extended one, and so that goes from 18 inches to 36. If for some reason the first one failed, boom, you can kill him off with this. Or if you are going with the Lord, okay, first try and hit him with the 1, take off a couple of wounds, and once you have that done, he's down to his last one, boom, finish him off with the Brain Buster. Obviously, another great thing for the Brain Buster is just killing unit champs. If you're about to go into combat, you don't want his unit champs holding up your, what do you call it? your lords and your other combat characters, we'll just kill him. Boom, brain busted, he's dead, he's out of the way. The other thing with this too is that it can even be good to be using this just on a regular mage. You could say, well, what's the use? You know, I just did 1 wound to a mage who now still has another wound and still casting spells if he was at full strength. However, now if he ever has a miscast, he has a far, far, far greater chance of killing himself, because the odds of taking the 1 wound from a miscast are fairly good. So that can really put the risk on. It'll mean psychologically that he's going to start taking less risks to try and protect this one caster and not give up the points. Another huge tactical spell that's in here is this Hand of Gork. So the way that this works is that you pick one of your own units that's within 2 feet, and then you get to pick a model and you move it 3d6 from its original position. You can also boost this up 5d6. So this is 10.5 inches on average for the first one, and then 15, was it 16.5 or something for the second one. But the main thing is that all of a sudden you get to work this around. And so the 2 big things that's going to be used, or actually 3 big things that can be used for this, is 1, if you're really trying to rush up an opponent, you're just using this to get some extra distance. So if you really need to close the gap, you had a unit that failed animosity or something, boom, you cast this on them, they're all of a sudden right in the thick of it. And the big thing here with this too is you could say, well that's bad, I'm up there and now I'm going to be getting the charge. Well, the big thing is, as an orc player, now that WoD changed, you're getting extra combat res rather than distance, you're going to be getting charged a lot more anyway. So it's usually better off for you just to get into combat as soon as you can. And the nice thing is that since you get to align them how you want after that 1 point, you can make sure or help reduce the chance that after you get ahead of your line that you're going to be getting flanked. It's going to be bad anyway. The other part of this is you can be using this to all of a sudden put supporting units in a flanking position, or even a rear charging position if you get really lucky. You know, this can even have some synergies. You know, the very first one for the Little Loa is the one where if you're hitting on the flank or the rear, you get to re-roll your hits and you have the armor penetration. So if you have the unit of goblins or something that you're going to be throwing up there or whatever, I mean, the main thing is this is just a hugely wonderful spell. Sure, it was great before when you could be using this to get a charge, but now when you can be using this to just catching up your distance, throwing something on a flank, you know, if they have a bunker in the back that's protecting all their main characters, boom, you're throwing them up. You can even be using this to be unloading your fanatics, right? You take your Night Goblin unit, move it up, hey look, I'm within 8 inches now, and bam, I throw it at you. And maybe this has to be FAQ'd, but I would assume that they land first, and so actually that distance where it gets released could be less than 8 inches, which has then a greater chance of it actually hitting the unit rather than stopping in between. So great tactical spell. And for those who didn't really catch this last time when I was talking about magic, orcs are the way to go. These are game-winning spells, some of this stuff, right? Killing a BSB, devastating their main units. They have another one where that everybody within 2d6 get to re-roll hits. So if you're going for the elite army, or even a non-elite army, all of a sudden this is just adding so many kills. So the Big Wa is amazing. If you're going to take a level 4 caster, you take this one for sure. Now let's quickly go over the Little Wa. The big thing here is that they're all supporting spells, and you know, tactically speaking for these, the best one is the Itchy Nuisance, and that's because you reduce their movement by D3. And so what that can mean is that this has a range of 24, and so if you really want to have more time to be shooting them, you cast this on them, it'll be harder for them to get to you. If you if there's units, say, that's on the flank that you want to make sure that you slow them down, they don't get around to you, you cast this on them, and it can take them forever to get to you. It's just a great thing. It also has also a bit of a benefit that it reduces their initiative, so you can be hitting first, but that's not usually as big of a deal in 8. Yeah, for the rest of their spells, they're really just kind of support spells, giving a unit poison, blah blah blah. you know, if you're going to take a level 2, take one of these. But the main thing I want to talk about here is what type of shaman are you going to take? Are you going to be taking a Goblin Shaman or a Night Goblin Shaman? Now, the Night Goblin Shaman is actually cheaper. He's 5 points cheaper, but the big difference is that the Goblin Shaman has +1 leadership, and as well the Night Goblin Shaman has to take a mushroom every single time. So it's an extra d6, and on a 1 it could hurt you. So I think the idea is that it's worse because you could be killing yourself. Well, the thing is that to start off with, leadership doesn't matter because a lot of times your general is going to be better. He's going to be in the range. If you're relying on the leadership of your little shaman, you're probably putting yourself in a bad position as it is. Finally, is that Night Goblin ability even bad? Well, if you think of it, if this support shaman is going to be casting 1 spell a turn, which is probably the average, that means once a game you're going to be getting that 1. Well, half the time it doesn't even hurt you, and the other half of the time you take a wound. This guy has 2 wounds anyway. So for the most part, in your typical game, you're losing nothing, but every time he casts, he gets an extra d6. So should be obvious what I'm saying. When you take this guy as your support shaman, or even if you want to decide to go as him making your main one, although I'd highly suggest against it, or advise against it, go with the Night Goblin Shaman for sure. The benefits that you get with that extra d6 and being cheaper is just way better. So there you go. There's the tactical implications of magic. And let's go on to the next topic.